everybody. Welcome in. Welcome in. Come on in. Take a seat. Get settled. I hope you all are having a wonderful afternoon or late morning. If you can pop a hello or let me know where you're from in the comments, that lets me know that you can hear me, you can see me, and all of our tech is working correctly, which is always a big relief for me. Welcome. So good to see that all of you guys are here. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day. I know everybody is busy, has a lot of things to do. So I appreciate you guys being here with me today. I will introduce myself a little bit more in a minute, but my name is Katie, and I am here today with you guys to help you understand how you can use our brand new tool, which we call Market Insights, to optimize your listing and maximize those leads and get more renters, better renters, whatever you are looking for with your goals with your midterm rental in this session. So really quick, while I introduce myself, I know some of you have found the poll right next to chat. It'll say poll. Let me know how long you've been renting for. That'll help me kind of know which way to steer our conversation today. And then let me introduce myself. My name is Katie Lyon. I am a team member here at Furnished Finder. I lead a lot of the customer education, and I'm also a landlord myself. So I have 13 midterm rentals with my family. So I am living and breathing midterm rentals all day, every day. So it's really exciting to be with you guys here today because I know what it's like to be a landlord and to be operating these midterm rentals. A couple of things before we get going too much. This session is recorded and it will be automatically sent to you all after the session today. So if there's something you missed, if you have to jump off early, if you want to see something again, don't worry, it will be sent to you automatically. If you don't see it, make sure you check your others folder. A lot of times that can help. That's where it ends up sometimes just with the nature of our inboxes. And if you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat here. I will answer as many as possible at the end of our session today. We should have some time for Q&A. Keep in mind, I think a lot of the questions that will naturally come up, I will answer kind of just with the content we're going to go through. So a lot of the questions you'll have will probably come later towards the end of the session. And then if you can keep the chat just kind of 2 questions only, that will help me at the end of the session when we have Q&A time be able to really see what we have going through there. So I like to make webinars really, really action-packed and really valuable for your time. I know it's a lot to give up an hour of your time during the workday. So I like to make them incredibly valuable. I like to give lots and lots of information with the goal being that you can take 1 to 2 action steps after we leave here today. So again, it's recorded. If you get to the point where you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed or something, that's okay. You can always rewatch later, but I challenge you to think of 1 to 2 things that you can walk away with and you can put into action at the end of this session, because that's what matters, is just small incremental steps towards all of our goals. So what are we going to cover today? I'm going to give a really quick refresher on midterm rental demand and what we are seeing from Furnished Finder as far as traveler types. How Market Insights supports your listing optimization, how to analyze your market more efficiently. Even if you're in your market, how do you know it even better and what can you do with that information? And then we're going to do some live demonstrations of challenges within different markets and how to use Market Insights to help those. And then we'll do that Q&A. And guys, I just got word that one of my coworkers, Kate, is actually in the chat here as well. So if you have questions, you might get a response from her and she's going to answer you live as well. So don't be thrown off if you hear from her. She is a huge resource and can help with all sorts of different questions you might have along the way. Okay, so why does it matter that we understand demand when it comes to midterm rentals? And you're going to hear me call them midterm rentals, monthly rentals, all of the same things. It's the properties that you all have listed on Furnished Finder, okay? So strong performance comes with aligning your listing with current demand. We all know the basics of supply and demand, and truly sometimes I see that landlords or property managers don't quite understand the nuances of demand in their markets. And that's what we're trying to help you solve and understand a little bit better. When the demand shifts by tenant type, when it shifts by market, what worked last year might not work this year. And they're clues, they're hints, they're little nuggets of data that you can take to keep adjusting your listing and your strategy to have the most success possible. All right, so quick refresher, who are we seeing on Furnished Finder that uses monthly rentals? I know a lot of people are drawn to monthly rentals because of traveling medical professionals. They are such a solid tenant base. They're reliable, they're professional. We're still seeing about a quarter to a third of our demand come from these traveling medical professionals. Think about them as bread and butter. They are fantastic, they are stable, and that traveling medical or traveling nurse industry has kind of returned to where it was pre-pandemic, where it's solid, it's reliable, it's stable, and these travelers are wonderful. I would be curious to hear in the chat if any of you have hosted them. I know I've hosted many of them, and generally they're fantastic. We're seeing a huge boom in corporate travelers and digital nomads. Corporate travel is back. And I don't just mean that maybe you're going to Philadelphia for a week for a bunch of meetings or presentation and then you come back. This is more like we're starting a new data center. So we need some traveling welders, or we need to bring in some project managers, or, we have a new facility going up and we need to have someone come in and train all of the operators. So it's more flexible length stays and a lot of times longer stays. We're seeing that a lot of companies and corporations are using extended travel instead of relocations or instead of additional hiring, especially in expensive markets. Academics and interns, we're seeing a lot of travel for internships, especially as interns get more and more specific about where they want their experience to be, and opportunities have reopened post-COVID. That world is alive and very healthy. And then displaced and relocating families. This is a really interesting segment because of where the real estate market is today. We're seeing a lot of families who are maybe relocating from one city to another city, and they're not quite sure what neighborhood they want to be in, or their old house hasn't sold yet because things are on the market a little bit longer, or they're not quite sure where they want to be yet, or they haven't found their perfect home and they want to make sure they get it right because interest rates are a little bit higher and prices are a little bit higher. So they're being a little pickier. Or displaced families through fire or flood, natural disaster, or just maybe they're renovating their house instead of buying a house with the market. So we're seeing a lot of diversity in the uses of a midterm rental. And this is going to be important for you to remember and base knowledge for you to come back to as we start reflecting on the stories that market insights are telling you, okay? So why demand patterns are used for existing listing. You guys might all be here and you might be thinking, I already have my listing. I already have a midterm rental. Why do I need to pay attention to the data that market insights might be telling me? You're going to notice some shifts from tenant type and season, and market conditions can change faster than your listing. So you want to make sure that you're staying competitive and that your listing is staying as a reflection of the market condition that there is, right? You want to stay top in your competitive approach to it. And the data helps you adapt instead of reacting late. It's going to help you to pivot in small areas instead of panicking and thinking, oh my gosh, what do I do? I also want to let everybody know here that we have just gotten done completing a report with AirDNA. If you're not sure who AirDNA is, they are one of the leading data companies for specific short-term rentals, but really rental data in general. And they have worked with us, and we have put together, it's like a 40-page report all about the trends and data we are seeing within specific markets, but also within just midterm and monthly rentals in general. Why we're seeing the things that we are seeing. So I'm going to put up a little bubble as well that you can click on to view it. Now, if you want to click on it to view it, pop it in a new tab, but then come back here so it doesn't steal you for the rest of our time together. But this is going to be, it's really, really insightful. It's very, very data driven, and it's just a great indicator of why we're seeing the trends in monthly rentals, who we're seeing in travelers, and really like where this industry is headed. Okay. Why is it hard to optimize without clear data? If you're looking at your listing and you're like, okay, I want to improve my listing so I can reach more travelers or better travelers or the travelers of the type that I'm trying to reach, why is it hard? There's a lot of reasons for this, right? Midterm rental demand is not always visible on all platforms. It's a little bit more shaded in than it is per se with something like short-term rentals. Airbnb and short-term rental data does not reflect 30-day behavior. So if you are coming from the short-term rental world or you have experience there, or even if you've researched it, you know that data there is very transparent and it's very easy and accessible, especially through companies like AirDNA, to get what's the average daily rate, what's the vacancy rate. With monthly rentals, we don't have quite as much of that clarity available to us as landlords, and we want to try to dissolve some of that and give you more transparency into what's happening. Many landlords rely on assumptions or anecdotes. They hear someone say, oh, you're close to a hospital, you'd be great for travel nurses, without knowing the true demand. Or they say, oh, there's been a fire here recently. Of course, you could rent out your property to displaced families. And you're just kind of going by hearsay or thoughts versus actual data and evidence. And then there's guessing, right? Guessing can hurt us a lot. And sometimes, you know, taking an educated guess or our best guess is the perfect first step. But it's, what do you do after that? What do you do after you make an assumption or an estimate? How do you adjust that? How do you fine tune it and make sure that you're reaching the audience that you want to reach? Common optimization gaps that we see, and specifically that I see, especially when I'm talking to landlords at conferences or meetups, and they come to me and they're like, Katie, look at my listing. I'm not achieving the goals I want to achieve. What can I do? Sometimes people assume that demand hasn't changed. The monthly rental world changes, and we've seen a lot of trends. That AirDNA report is going to speak to a lot of the trends we've seen industry-wide over the past few years. But you might not have any visibility into what renters are actually searching for. And this is something that we have combated with this new market insights tool that I'm going to share with you here in a minute. Pricing is based on past performance. Short-term nightly rates don't translate to monthly stays. You're really comparing apples to oranges, so it's not really as helpful as some people might think it is. Investing in amenities that renters aren't prioritizing. I see this a lot. I see people say, well, my property was a short-term rental, or I use it as a short-term rental in the high season. Now I'm in the low season and people are not valuing my hot tub, right? So it's missing amenities that are driving the demand for monthly travelers. And then competing in a saturated segment without maybe realizing it and just having that awareness of needing to set yourself apart or how you might do so. Okay, so all of these reasons are why we have created this tool that we have created. If you've been with Furnished Finder for a while, you might remember our stats tool. I used it as an investor and a landlord all of the time. This is really a brand new and refreshed version of that stats tool, okay? But we're calling it Market Insights because it's more than just stats. It's more than statistics. It really is helping you to learn the story and the why that a lot of these data points are telling you. And we have developed the specific insights that we have landed on to help you understand your market and to help you make decisions about your listing that can really help you move the needle. So everything here is incredibly intentional, and our team has been working nonstop with it and super, super excited to share it all with you. So it is still at furnishedfinder.com/stats, STATS. We know so many people have that bookmarked. We did not want to change it. You can also get it just on the top bar in your nav here where it says Market Insights. But the goal here was to help you be able to understand traveler demand by city, supply levels and competition, property types, and what budget renters want. stay lengths, booking behavior, amenities, filter preferences, and more. So we're trying to really give you a holistic view of what travelers are looking for in your city. Why is this unique? Um, Market Insights shows real demand. Okay. It is not scraped. It's not modeled. It's not from other platforms. We are reflecting data that we are seeing in real time, updated daily on Furnished Finder. So hugely, hugely impactful and valuable. And it's showing what travelers are looking at every day. So it's showing you the demand side, right? Which is truly what is going to matter most to you as a landlord, and it's going to reflect monthly behavior only. We're not mixing in short term rentals because we don't do short term rentals. This is really like a very pure set of insights. And it's going to capture those shifting demand patterns that are going to help you make really, really great decisions. And it's built from our own platform. We're using our own data. We are using things that come directly from our marketplace activity, not third party modeling. Okay, here comes the juicy part, where I want everybody to make sure if you've wandered to a different tab, come on back. We're going to go through live here in a second how to use this tool to optimize your listing, to hit your rental goals, to make sure that your rental is performing the best way it can, and to make sure you're getting the most out of your Furnished Finder membership. So reminder, in case anybody came in late, this is recorded. So as I'm going through this, if you have any questions, please pop them in the chat. Kate is busy answering any questions that she can on the fly to help anybody. So this is your chance to get one-on-one help. And then we will have live Q&A time at the end as well, that I will take some questions as well. So we're going to walk through how to view the supply and demand, how to review your property type, pricing expectations, look at a length of stay and renter behavior, and evaluate how your property fits into this mix. Okay, so let's see it in action. Give me just 1 second here, you guys. I am going to share my screen. We are actually going to do this completely real time. So have patience with me if we have any technical difficulties. I'm literally sharing my screen with you. So when you are on furnishedfinder.com, this is the AirDNA report that I mentioned. It's also going to be noted a few different places when this banner goes away, but this will take you to that report if you care to view it. It's really insightful and just some great data. Now, when you click on Market Insights, I know you're all going to be tempted to enter your city and state right away. I want you to pause for a second, though, and just scroll down. This page is our nationwide supply page. So this is going to show you what we are seeing on this Furnished Finder side from a nationwide marketplace as a whole. Okay, this is going to give you a 30,000 foot view and really educate you and give you the insights on what is the state of the supply with monthly rentals, right? What's going on? We currently have 300,000 properties available for rent, and we have 6 million unique travelers in the past 12 months. So that alone gives you a sense of the strength, okay? And I want you to take that with a note that there is opportunity here. There is room for you. There's room for your property. And the strength that we are seeing from monthly rentals in general is incredible. It's the reason that my family and I have just dive into this, and we have 12 rentals within just a few years, right? Like, we're all in, and there is strength here. You guys are at the forefront of understanding it and realizing the benefits of this. And this unique travelers, this also reflects truly unique travelers. Okay, so if I search on my phone, if I search on my phone and then I search on my computer, I'm still one traveler. Okay, so this is just a really, really powerful number that I want everybody to just realize that how impactful that can be. This is a heat map showing the total live listings that we are seeing nationwide. Now, one thing to note here is you're going to notice that there's a lot more live listings where populations are a lot more dense, which seems pretty logical. But then I want you to notice that you have places like Missouri, Illinois, Ohio, Michigan, Really glad that I passed my geography in fifth grade and know all the states, but that are also really high in listings. And there's strong growth in the Midwest and some of these states that you might not expect. So even if you are from one of these areas that you think could be weaker, it's not necessarily true because people for monthly rentals are not looking for those vacation properties. They're truly looking for places to live versus just to visit. Okay. So, huge thing there. Now, stepping inside of our rental mix, this is going to show you the averages of our inventory. So, our supply. Okay. So, the average rent for a studio nationwide, okay, is $1,800. And that is a broad number, but it also shows you the breakdown here that most studios nationwide are less than $2,000. Now, what if you're in a market or your property is a studio and it's higher than $2,000? That's okay. And that's where we're going to get into the market specific insights. But just kind of shows you the breakdown so you can get a lay of the land and see what's going on. Obviously, as you go up in bedroom size, the average rent that people are listing their properties at is higher. This is also interesting. 50% of the properties listed on Furnished Finder are one bedroom or smaller. Now, think about how we just talked about one of the fastest growing tenant types is relocating families. Those families are going to be looking here more in the 3 to 4 bedrooms, most likely. So there also is some opportunity here. So this is just interesting to see how the general inventory mix shakes up with the demand that we're seeing. And about 20% of the properties that we are seeing listed nationwide are a room rental versus a whole home or apartment. So you might not have considered something like that before, but there are a lot of people who are operating that way and having a lot of success. So who are we seeing nationwide? We're seeing about 35% business travelers. We talked about how this sector is growing really strong and quickly, and corporate travel is back, right? And they're for work assignments, or they're on projects, or maybe they are on a project and they fly home every weekend, but they don't want to stay in a hotel for months on end. They want to have a home to come back to. Healthcare professionals, back to, like I said, that bread and butter, that solid base. I love these tenants. 25% is fantastic. And these relocating families, guys, we have seen these up 185% year over year. It's massive. People are no longer just selling their house and buying the first house they see because the rates are low and the prices are cheap. They're taking their time. Things are moving a little bit slower, and they're easing their transition with furnished rentals. Average stay we're seeing is about 3 months. You're going to see this is fairly consistent from market to market, but there is some variance that can come in key for different properties and markets. And in-demand amenities, again, you're going to see that these stay fairly consistent. However, they're really important to understand from markets because these are huge, huge decision makers for people who are deciding which property they want to inquire about or rent. Okay, so let's go back to our presentation here. And we're going to go through 3 cities. We're going to go through a large city, a medium city, and a smaller city. And rather than just walk you guys through them, I want to talk about landlords that might have some challenges in these. So first, let's talk about someone who might have a 2-bedroom listing in Phoenix. And for this person, I'm going to say that they don't have any specific challenges that they're working through right now, but rather they're just trying to find out how do I optimize my listing? How do I make sure that I'm doing the best thing possible? So we're going to go up here and we're going to type in Phoenix. Okay. And then we're going to pull up this Phoenix, Arizona monthly rental market. Now, all of the statistics on this page are tailored to Phoenix. Everything you see on here is Phoenix specific. So we're seeing that there's 3,700 properties listing, which makes sense because it is a larger market. 48,000 unique travelers. So that demand is healthy. Okay. If every one of these travelers was ready to book a property, there is nowhere near enough properties. Okay. So we're seeing that there's a healthy supply and demand ratio. And I know a lot of you are savvy investors and you're going to say, well, what is a healthy supply and demand ratio? And I'm going to answer you more with a question than an answer. And it's going to be, what is the story that your property is telling? And we'll get into that a little bit more, but it's not as black and white as it is oftentimes with something like short-term rental data. It's not as easy as this is a good number or this is a bad number. Now, we are working on bringing in like a meter or a gauge. This is something we'll be releasing in the next weeks to a couple of months. And it's going to let you know, is the supply high? Is the demand high? How did those two factors mix together as far as from what we're seeing on a Furnished Finder perspective? But with an average stay of about 3 months, you need 4 tenants a year to keep your property at 100% occupancy. So it's truly more about the specifics of your property than this overarching number that you might be seeing in a market. Because you might be seeing a market that has really low supply, crazy high demand, but you still will need to optimize your listing to make sure that you are reaching the travelers that are going to make a successful rental for you. Okay, so what are we seeing? We're seeing for a 2-bedroom that the average rent is about $2,300. We can also see that once we get above this 3,900 mark, or once we get into the 4,000 mark, the number of listings viewed drop off significantly. Now, something I want you to understand is once you shift to viewing a market specific page, this is no longer based on inventory, okay? This is the rent ranges for listings that are viewed. So this is truly telling you the preference and the demand signals from travelers. What listings are they viewing? Are they clicking on? So when a traveler clicks on a 2-bedroom listing, 63% of the time that listing is somewhere in the $2,000 to $3,000 range. Okay. So these travelers are preferring this range. Some of them have a lower budget. Very few of them have a very high budget. Okay. Now, I can also learn in this market that 32% are looking for 2 bedrooms. That is strong. That is a high number. And you have to also remember that if I am listing a 2-bedroom, someone who's looking for a 1-bedroom would probably consider taking a 2-bedroom and just having a little bit of extra space. Okay. There is less demand for private rooms than if I'm comparing it to the national average. So if I have a 2-bedroom property, like we're saying, that is to my favor because 86% of the listings viewed, again, not my inventory, but the listings that are viewed are like my listing. Okay, this is my favorite section to look at on a market insights page is who are we seeing travel in this area? I think this tells such a huge story and you can apply this to optimizing your listing in just so many ways. So in this market in Phoenix, we're seeing healthcare professionals, business travelers, and relocating families. So you might be like, okay, great, but what does that tell me? That tells me a lot. That tells me that these folks are likely on a stipend, okay? And they probably have a healthy budget, but they want that to be spent meaningfully. That means I should have a desk, okay? That means I should have Wi-Fi, relocating families, some space and welcoming for families and kids. Okay, average stay of about 3 months. And the in-demand utilities, we're seeing consistency here. Pets allowed is huge, utilities included, and washing machine. Okay, so let's go back and let's circle with what did that data just tell us, okay? That told us that most 2-bedroom demand clusters around the mid-2000s, just like we said. Only a small share of the listings are above $3,000. So if I am priced above $3,000, I need to make sure that my listing is impeccable. I have a lot of value to present and that I really I am here to serve these tenants. 32% of the demand in Phoenix is for 2-bedroom. That is significantly higher than many markets. So that is meaningful. That is to my benefit, okay? And the top renter searches for 2 bedrooms, medical professionals, business travelers, and relocating families. Okay, I have these insights. What do I do? What do I do? This is always my biggest question as a landlord. It's okay, and now what? What do I do with this data? How do I implement this into real changes in my listing? So I'm just going to touch on a few of these. I won't go through them one on one. You can always watch the replay or take screenshots. But these are just examples of how could this person take these insights and make changes or tweaks to their listing. Okay. So things like amenities. When we're thinking about business professionals and traveling nurses, making sure you have Wi-Fi, making sure you have laundry, making sure you're pet friendly, highlighting parking, thinking about a relocating family, a business professional, or a healthcare professional. They're likely to have a car. Where are they going to park that? Okay. The pricing band, not, you could put in your description that you have seasonality to your pricing, and that during high seasons it's X and during low seasons it's X, and making sure that you're updating the pricing as your seasons change is really important, especially in a seasonal market like Phoenix. Ensuring that you have a two-bedroom that's really a two-bedroom, right? And making that into two really nice beds, king or queen if you can. And then calling out in your listing who your property is great for. If I see that there's a lot of these traveling medical professionals and business professionals, I would call out in my listing, this is a great property for business professionals or traveling medical professionals. Call it out. Let them know this is great for you, right? And then leading with comfort. Okay. So now we're going to get into some more markets and some more landlords who are perhaps having some more specific challenges or things that we're going to hone in on a little tighter. So we're going to go to this landlord who feels like the leads have been slow for his one bedroom listing in Columbus. So if you have been feeling like maybe you're not getting as many leads as you would like or something along those lines, I want you to tune in closely as we go through this. Let me just flip back here. Okay, so we're going to go back and we're going to select Columbus, Ohio. Okay, and we've got a one bedroom that we are working with. So again, high level, we've got 929 properties listed and 23,000 unique travelers. So that tells me there is demand, okay? The health of demand here is strong. What am I looking at as far as the rent ranges? Again, for listings that are viewed. This tells me travelers' budgets. Okay, what kind of budget are these travelers working with? One bed, we're looking at about 1,400, but there is some space here in the 2,000 range. Okay. There's a fair number of budget travelers here. 25% are viewing properties that are less than $1,000, but there's a strong health in the budget on this end as well. If I'm looking at a one bedroom, I would also consider the insights I'm seeing for a studio, just because a lot of these travelers would alternate, they would take a studio or a bedroom kind of either way. So it's important to just kind of explore the different flexing of that you might see from a traveler. Number of bedrooms. We are over 50% for bedroom or one studio. So that is really, really healthy. Okay. You're going to see that, 50% of the listings viewed are one bedroom or smaller. So that is really good news for you. And that also tells us that the problem is likely that people are not searching for your property type. The problem is we need to hone something in else. Also, 83% of people are viewing listings that are a whole home or apartment. So again, this tells us that the demand is likely not the issue. It could be a budget, and this is a quick way to gut check that. Now, who else is traveling? Who am I trying to appeal to? This is really interesting, especially for a market like Columbus. Look at this. We are 77% healthcare or business travelers. 77%. So if I am not tailoring my property to a healthcare professional or a business traveler, I am missing out. If I'm focused right now on interns or academics, they're only 6%. Okay. So it's how do I take this? And we'll talk about that in a second. Similar story here, a higher preference for utilities included, pets allowed, washing machine, and an average stay of 3 months. Okay, so let's get back to summarizing. what we're seeing here. Most one bedroom demand is clustered below 2,000. Okay. More than half of the renter demand is for a one bedroom home or smaller. It's just giant. There is room for you. Okay. Private room demand is low, and medical professionals and business travelers are making up just a giant share. So if the leads are slow here, pricing or positioning is likely the issue, not the demand. So that's when we can look internally at the listing and how we are positioning it. Okay. So if I were this gentleman with a one bedroom listing in Columbus, what would I do? What would I do with this information? How do I take this information and turn it into action? Okay. First, I'm going to focus on my pricing. I'm going to really look at my pricing and see where am I falling and how am I competitive. And if I'm above $2,000 a month for my one bedroom listing, how am I justifying that? Right? Because you can. Personally, all of my properties are very high on the pricing end when I look at comps and demand. However, they're not. They get booked, and it's because they're not fancy, but they're clean and crisp and just done well. So it doesn't have to be fancy amenities and hot tubs. It can be your level of cleanliness and professionalism and just, things like how you market your property. Okay. High speed Wi Fi, it's non negotiable for this type of renter. And I would brag about it in your listing, right? I would brag that you have a high speed Wi Fi, maybe a desk with a monitor, blackout curtains, a coffee maker. Make it somewhere where these business professionals and these traveling medical professionals want to be. It's not somewhere where they're like, oh, okay, I can stay at this place for 3 months while I'm on contract. It's no, I'm so excited to stay here. This person has thought of me and made this property to cater to my needs and my wants. Okay. Leading with convenience and affordability rather than luxury, making sure that you know that you are saying that utilities are included. Another good thing here is lease flexibility. Traveling medical professionals and corporate travelers very, very often have changes in their plans or their contracts. So if you can put in your listing that you have some level of lease flexibility, that'll give you a leg up as well because you understand those travelers. Okay. Um, Again, improving the visibility and lead quality is with your pricing and your setup for how renters are searching. Okay. Last person we're going to go through is a smaller market in Durango, Colorado. Most of you have probably not heard of it. I'm in Denver, so I definitely know about Durango. But it's a small market, okay? And this landlord is not sure if she has her pricing correct for Durango. So we are going to switch back and let's hop over to Durango. I'm just going to go back and let's go to Durango. Okay, smaller market, 104 properties listed. Definitely a smaller market, but you can see it's still healthy. 5,900 unique travelers in the past 12 months. Um, Obviously, there are people looking. Let's learn about who they are and what they're looking for. Okay, and for this instance, I don't know if this landlord has a one bedroom, a two bedroom, anything like that. So we're just going to kind of look at pricing in general and some hints that we can take about that to refine your pricing. So rent ranges. Rent ranges average for a studio listing viewed is about $1,600. But if you see about a third of them are over $2,000, but then it really drops off. Okay. Similar story for two bedroom, three bedroom, we're inching higher here. And I can see that when we go from a two bedroom at 2,500 to a three bedroom at 3,600, people are paying for that extra bedroom quite significantly. Okay. There's a lot of value placed in these larger properties, and the budgets that travelers are having are reflecting of that. With that, let's see the bedroom split. A lot of one bedrooms people are searching for, but a pretty healthy amount for two bedrooms. But look at this, one bedroom and studio is giant. Okay. So if I have a larger property, I just want to make sure things are really, really tight, including my pricing, since there's less of the pie dedicated to two, three, four bedrooms. If that is what this landlord has, it's going to be more important that I'm using these signals to make sure that my pricing is aligned. And again, we're seeing lower than national average demand for private rooms, with people wanting to have the privacy in that market. So who are these people? Healthcare professionals, some. Digital nomads, some. This is interesting. I feel like a lot of people like to travel to Colorado, especially if it's maybe unseasonably warm or cold where they're from. Other groups, 16%. Other groups can be things like those snowbirds, right? Or people who they're in Texas in the summer and it is hot and they're sick of melting. So they're going to come north a little bit. Or vice versa. Colorado is uh, more mild than people think for the winters here. They might be coming from the north and coming to Colorado for the summer. Or they might be visiting family. They might be exploring the area, whatever it might be. Relocating families are also really, really big. So we're seeing some strong numbers, some good diversity, but some strong numbers in these relocating families, which would make me feel extra confident if I have one of these larger properties, okay? Maybe less listings are viewed because there's less listings available and people are making quick decisions, right? So it's just going to help you kind of piece together that story. Average stay is a little bit longer. And here, the number one amenity is pets allowed. So I better make sure that I am allowing pets if I at all can, even if that means I want to charge for that a little bit. Okay, so let's review again what that data showed. Average price for a 3-bedroom is about $3,700. Only a small share of renters are looking for those larger properties, but you have to remember that if someone is looking for a 2-bed, a 3-bed might work, right? And so if you have a larger property, you're not always restricted to people who are only looking for that amount. A lot of times people would take bonus space. And those relocating families are making up a third of demand. Okay. That is just giant. So pricing is less about bedroom count here and more about flexibility and the fit and the length of stay. So what can this person do? How can they make sure that their pricing is right and how can they optimize their listing? They're going to look at $3,000 as a baseline if they have a larger property, not a ceiling. You could consider incentives for longer stays. With the average stay a little bit longer, it makes me curious if there are some travelers who stay for 6 months or 8 months, and perhaps giving those people a little bit of a discount since you won't have any turnovers. And then marketing as an option for families. Okay, I want this person to talk about in their description how they're great for families, relocating families, or people checking out the area. Maybe this is a time to take a photo of your family room with a container of Legos on the coffee counter, okay? Or the coffee table. Like make some human touches here now that you know that there's a lot of relocating families coming to the area, right? Can you add in a couple of touches for kids, or can you add something that says that dogs are welcome? How can you make it so people feel that they can really settle in? Reliable internet is going to be huge. Again, laundry, storage, outdoor space. These you could be able to charge a little bit of a premium for them, especially since these people are relocating families that we're seeing. And parking, things like that are all going to make a difference. So I think that is just some big things that that person could use. All right, what can you do? What can you do in your market with your listing? I want you to validate your position. I want you to check out your um, market and I want you to say, yeah, my pricing is right. My property type is right. And it's okay if you don't have the most common or you don't fit into, the most common pricing bracket. Like I said, I don't, and it's okay. It's all about what need are you fulfilling and what opportunity is your property addressing. And then I want you to adjust your pricing with confidence. Okay, this is something that a lot of our users, no matter how experienced they are not super confident with their pricing. And that's okay. You can change your pricing as much as you want. And the other great thing about Furnished Finder is, let's say you charge $2,000 for rent, you're going to get $2,000 for rent. We're not taking those booking fees, we're not taking those commissions, but have confidence in your pricing. And when you adjust it, you can look back at some data and some insights and adjust it with purpose. Okay. And then you can go ahead and you can refine your listing to match demand. Now, don't feel like you have to go in and change everything today. You don't. It's not about that. It's about really small adjustments, really just tweaking your listing and learning from these insights to know, okay, how can I make it just a little bit better, a little bit more impactful? Maybe it's a little bit more profitable. Okay. Maybe it increases your vacancy a little bit more because you see that travel nurses are really high in your area and you are able to really hone in on that and advertise that your property has coffee machine, blackout curtains, white noise machine, and it's in a quiet area and it's safe and well lit. What story is your listing telling renters right now? Okay, so what I challenge you to do after this webinar, I told you I was going to give you so much information, is okay if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed. Just remember that review your current market insights, compare your property setup, your pricing to the active demand, and then identify one or two updates that you can make, and then just see how it goes. Okay. You don't have to go crazy. You don't have to change everything, just a couple of things. And then check in a week or two and say, okay, what else how can I hone this in even more? Even if you have a tenant in your property right now, that's the perfect time for you to be finessing and optimizing your listing because there's very little risk. You have a tenant in there already. So, okay, Kate, I think I will. Can you let me know if we should answer some questions live that are just kind of from all over the board, or if we should do a live demo of a sample market? I haven't been able to keep up with the chat very well, so I will let you know, or I will follow your lead here. Which one you think? Okay, I'm going to go with the all over the board questions. I think we did a pretty good job covering a lot of what we can do with the insights. So I'm going to go through these questions that Kate has marked as answered live. If you have more questions, please continue to ask them in the chat. Kate will either answer them or she'll mark them for me to ask live if it needs a longer explanation or could just be beneficial to everybody. This is the thing that I love most about live webinars, is especially for all of you that are joining us live here today, is that we can do this. So, okay. For filtering tenants, how much do you guys require for income to rent ratio? Paula, this is actually up to you. This is one of the great things about Furnished Finder is this is your listing, your property, your business. So it's up to you. Personally, I care much more about a credit score and payment history, which I can view when I do a tenant screening through Furnished Finder as a part of like my booking process, than I do about income to rent ratio. But look at the travelers you're seeing in your market. A lot of them are on stipend. So a lot of them will be paying rent with not their personal income, but with stipend. So it doesn't necessarily matter. Okay. Do you have to insure your home insurance about having a renter in your own home? Becky, yes, absolutely. You actually need what's called landlord insurance. We've partnered with Steadily on this. There's a lot of companies that do landlord insurance, but Steadily we have found understands the quirks and nuances of monthly furnished rentals. When a lot of times people will underwrite you as a short-term renter insurance, which is much more expensive. And Steadily has really worked to understand that. You can link to Steadily through your landlord dashboard. So if you go to your landlord dashboard, hit landlord tools and hit landlord insurance, you can get a free quote from them, but you absolutely do. They cover, then you're covered for liability and damages and things like that. If you have a renter and something comes up and you're only using your homeowner's insurance, more than likely anything will get denied. Not great, but it's quick and easy to get. Okay, how would we go about collecting the funds from a utility cap overflow? I don't think it can be done through KeyCheck. This is a great question, Tony. I love a good utility cap, not to like nickel and dime my tenants, but just to keep everybody honest. My properties are in a market where it gets really hot and really cold. And I always tell them I kind of go on averages. And as long as they're being mindful and like they won't be an issue. So you want to make sure you're being honest about it and not setting something up where they're just likely to go over. But you can create a one-time charge if you're working within Stripe, which is the tool that we have for online payments right now. So that's how I would recommend doing it right now. Okay, let's see. All right, I have a listing in Stoughton. I hope I'm saying that right. Stoughton. For 30 days, had 3 insurance relocation calls, but no booking. What do you think is the problem? Daniel, great question. Without knowing a whole lot more, I don't know. However, with insurance relocations, it's important to be very quick. So if you have a call, like they're looking to place someone oftentimes like same day. And a lot of times because of that, they might be calling a lot of people. And as soon as they get in touch with one that will work for the family or the individual who's displaced and they need to find a relocation for them, they have to work with that person and kind of disregard everybody else. So don't get discouraged. Insurance relocations are often you'll get a lead and it might not work, or you get a lead and you don't hear back. Be as quick to respond as you can. And otherwise, just hang in there and be open to other types of bookings and make sure that your listing appeals to other types of bookings as well, right? Because insurance relocations are interesting because they're one of the only demand types that we really can't predict, right? It's very hard to control or predict the demand for an insurance relocation. Okay. Are we supposed to get an email when we got a lead? If so, I logged into my listings and I had 6 leads. Did not get an email since their budget didn't fit our monthly rent. Julie, I want you to check your notification settings in Furnished Finder first. If you have trouble with that, I want you to go to support.furnishedfinder.com. And we have Fern, who is our little bot who can help you make sure that you know where those notification settings are. Um, but yes, you should be getting an email. Sometimes, depending on your email provider, you have to teach that it's not spam. I love that all of our email providers, Gmail and everything, is trying to really help us focus on our lives and put a lot of stuff into our others folder, our promos folder, our spam folder. But sometimes it learns the wrong way and it does puts things in there that shouldn't be there. So if you find one or you search for one in that folder and you can like mark it as safe or drag it into your inbox, that can really help. I also like the mobile notifications. I have mobile notifications turned on. So that way, if that does happen, because that's kind of outside of my control, what my Gmail decides to do on any given day, I will get the mobile notifications. So those I make sure you have those turned on as well. It's just kind of a nice safeguard to make sure that you have them all. Okay, did I get all the questions? I think I might have gotten through them all. If anybody has any other questions, please pop them in the chat. We have just a few minutes. I'm just scrolling to make sure that I have gotten them all. But this has been so fantastic. I hope that this has been really helpful and, dare I say, insightful to everybody to be here today. I know it's a lot to ask to take an hour out of your time, and I am just always so committed to making sure that webinars are valuable and give you something to leave here from. So, okay, I'm seeing a couple of questions come in that I will answer at the end. When you price your listing, do you need to add more on top of that for lodging taxes? Shayna, typically not, but you need to look into your local laws for that. Usually 30 days and up does not have lodging taxes, but double check. When I don't own the property, I sublease. What type of insurance do I need? Tony, typically you're going to want some sort of liability insurance, and you're going to want to make sure that your tenant has renter's insurance. Guys, if you're not requiring your tenant to have renter's insurance, definitely make sure you do that. It is so affordable for that. It's so affordable and it protects you as a landlord. I didn't realize this until like pretty recently. It protects you and your liability as a landlord. So for like 20 bucks a month or less, usually they can get that. So it's huge. DC says, how do I charge for pets? How do you want to charge for pets? That's up to you. Personally, I charge a pet deposit and a pet cleaning fee. But it's really up to how do you want to charge for pets. I would just make sure that you don't overcharge and you're very transparent with your charges. Typically, a pet deposit is incredibly reasonable and somewhat expected. And a pet cleaning fee, I do because when my cleaner goes to a property and a dog has been there for 3 months, I want them to spend longer vacuuming and wiping down, and they deserve to be compensated for that. What is the cost of a credit check, Christy? For $44.99. You get a credit check, that's a soft pull, an eviction history, and a criminal history. It's all through TransUnion, and the tenant pays it typically. Now, you can pay it if you want, but the tenant sees it as like an application fee. Okay. So I would really, really recommend that you have that in your process. All of these tools we're talking about, guys, like lease documents, tenant screening, renters insurance, landlord insurance, they're all linked in your landlord tools to partners that we partner with on purpose. We trust them, we vetted them, they are experts at what they do. And that's why we have integrated them into Furnished Finder. I have the option to rent 1 or 2 bedrooms. How do I advertise one or the other one? Santa Maria, 1 or 2 bedrooms. I'm not sure I quite understand your question, but if you're saying that you want to market it as a 1 bedroom and possibly as a 2 bedroom, like maybe as a room rental, if you want to market it truly different, you would need 2 different listings, or you can put in the property description that you could rent it. But if you're doing a room rental, you would want to have 2 listings. Hopefully, understood that correct. Is the tenant deposit required, and how much? It's up to you. It's truly up to you. I think I would always recommend taking a deposit. Typically, it's about 1/3 to a half month rent. I'm just going to get a quick pulse on you guys, really quick. If you don't mind, I'm going to take the last 2 minutes to ask a question of my own, because you guys are all so engaged in the chat, and this is so fantastic. As current landlords, would you find it valuable to have like a live Q&A section time where there's something where you could come in and ask any type of question you would like about midterm rentals? How valuable would that be to all of you? Okay, great. You're all saying yes. My next question for you is, what format is preferable for you for that? Like, do you like this live webinar setup? I love the instant gratification of question, answer, question, answer. I feel like I'm like here with all of you. This format, fantastic. Okay, this is so great, you guys. I think this is something we will definitely do in the future because rentals are, they're so powerful. They're so powerful, and there's so much opportunity, and it's it's so much easier than short-term rentals, but it's different, right? So I love being able to sit here and give you guys tips and options. Breakout rooms with other landlords. Can you do more of this direct us? We will definitely do more of this. This is fantastic. Okay, you guys, this is fantastic. I think we will be definitely be doing this on a more of a regular basis. I cannot thank you guys all for the feedback. We are pouring our hearts and souls and all of our dedication into making this platform and midterm rentals as amazing as the opportunity is, right? So I can't thank you guys enough. You can absolutely watch this again, and keep an eye on your email. If your emails are not getting to your inbox, make sure that you can take care of that, because we will send out invites to more of these, because I think this is fantastic. All right, you guys, until next time, have a wonderful afternoon. And thank you all so, so, so much for joining us.